Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and a happy Lunar New Year. So you can see this the red shirt and this is the Chinese word called "fa," which means get rich. So yeah, Chinese are obsessed with money, so yeah, can't be helped. So since that's the case, now remember to support me on Patreon, Coffee, uh, locals or YouTube memberships. Everything helps. So yeah, yeah, because viewership is low. You can see it from your for yourself. So it's not about it's not about me, greedy for money. It's yeah, times are hard. So anyway, um, so conclusions, chill session of conclusions, trying to go through and analysis my opinions on the situation on the ground in Ukraine. And so I've just published a quick update on the Pokrovsk front. Particularly, is talking about the Russians seemingly is changing the grand strategy. The big arrow movement is now moving west in this direction. And so I have covered that a bit on the quick update. I don't want to repeat the same thing by too much, but basically there is a river here, and I suspect that the Russians are simply gonna head over here, capture the major city, and build a defense line along here. At least for the midterm. So we shall see how this goes. The Ukrainian forces are really getting weaker and weaker. And I just saw a video shared by a history legends on Twitter on the Ukrainian troops, part of the I think 110, that was stuck in Velyka Novosilka, and the command basically tell them to fight to the death, uh, refusing to uh, evacuate them. And I did mention that generally speaking, the evacuation is nearly impossible. Uh, and I believe that it's not a matter of they did not try. The Ukrainians did counterattack at Vremivka, and they failed. And this area here was already encircled. The Ukrainians was simply waiting at the Mokriali River bend, waiting for the Ukrainian troops to withdraw. But the encirclement came very fast because the Ukraine forces just lost their will to fight because there is no reinforcement, there is no evacuation, and I think the Ukrainians just gave up. So yeah, and that happened like this two times because there's another time happened over at FDFK, which was the same unit that was putting up the last stand. Like where's that DFK? Oh my god, the map here so far away. The front line have moved so far away. So they were there as well, and yeah, the troops was not happy, and I'm quite sure that they have already surrendered. I don't believe they actually fight to the end. If the command like gave you a suicide order, I'm quite sure most soldiers are going to give up, because there's no reason to fight on. That's what I think. Because unless there's really a reason to to die for the country, like the country is really something that you're really proud of and you really want to fight for, and you believe in the system, like pretty much like for example in Nazi Germany, uh in World War II, a lot of people actually really believe in Hitler. They really saw the so-called positive change, because they spent a lot of money, so on infrastructure building and whatnot, and they really thought that this is not bad. No, maybe a good section. I'm quite sure it's not the majority per se, but a good number of them think so, and which is enough for them to really fight to the end for a lot of cases. But Ukraine is not that kind of country. Ukraine do not have like a Hitler per se. They do not have the kind of mass indoctrination and mass infrastructure building that make the Ukrainians proud. In fact, they have so much corruption and whatnot that I don't think the soldiers have the same kind of like a belief that their state should succeed in at the same level. It's not that they're not trying, like they really are fighting as hard as they could, but no, it is a suicide mission, and this is one of the best units. So which means the situation here now is really bad because how many more new units do the Ukrainians actually have to fight very effectively? I'm really not too sure. Velyka Novosilka did hell for quite a bit of time. The Russians was stuck outside quite some time, but eventually it was the Vremivka that broke the camel's back, which I did warn about because the weak spots were too obvious, which was the breach, and the Russians simply TOS the place and then they just rushed in. So yeah, and that worked. And the Deep State UA has officially announced the capture of Velyka Novosilka, which is not too bad. They're around just 1-2 days late, so it's not bad. Like they did not try to hide it for too long. And the Russians seemingly is already starting to push out. We have already fighting reported. Novo Ocharitut, Fateh, Rozdone, Barhatil, Vremivka, there's also fighting reported. And Novosilka. So there is some kind of already, the Russians are already on the move. So let's see how do you go there, where they go next. And the situation in this Andriivka region is also getting a bit tricky. Fighting is now being reported at Oleksievka by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, which means the Russians are now having maybe some success in this region in Yastunobe, Slovianka, and they are moving towards Oleksievka and Bodanivka. So this is the Russians are now pushing, and they are already at Andriivka. So they are now going for the other crossing, because the other crossing across the river is over at Oleksievka, Bahatia region. They are now literally just simply going for it. Something very similar to what I've mentioned about Andriivka previously, where I said that the Russians is going to go for Andriivka in this flanking operation, and indeed the Russians did do it. And it looks like now they're going to go for the same thing and going for Oleksievka directly, like maybe in this way. So we shall see how fast the Russians can go. The speed of the Russians reaching Oleksievka while the battle of Andriivka is still ongoing. So the battle of Andriivka is not over. It's basically just in the beginning. Depending on how fast Andriivka fall and how fast the Russians reach Oleksievka, we can kind of have a sense of what's the real combat health of the Ukrainian armed forces. I think they will be a very good gauge. So do take note on that. I will definitely come back to this. We'll definitely talk about this, whether we will see this in a week or two. How fast the progression of the Russian forces across all these fields. So just to put some perspective, the Oleksievka now to the front line, okay, on the top is around 10 kilometers. So that is around 10 kilometers. So, and then Andriivka itself, we are talking about a city of a length of 5 kilometers, almost 6 kilometers long. So this is not a small city. So at least for Ukraine context for now in the Ukraine war, so the progression of the war should be able to be visible, because these two places is just so important. One major crossing here between Andriivka and Constantinople, and another crossing over here at Oleksievka with Bahatil. This is the major crossings. I don't think there's much more crossings around here. Let's see. So these are all immigration. What was not immigration? That's what is it called? I forgot. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's what irrigation. Yes. See, I know you guys got it. So there's one small crossing here. There's one small crossing. This is in the center of Constantinople and Bahatir. Let's move on further up. There's one small one over here, but this is already Bahatir. And the main road is here. This is the main bridge leading to Oleksievka. So there's not much crossings around here. So the Russians going for Oleksievka is going to kill and extend this salient here. So that will be a disaster. Luckily, is already a choke point, and so no things is gonna get very bad. And as I said long time ago, this salient here should not have existed. the fact that the Ukrainians are still fighting within a bulge, within a salient, within a pocket, and encirclement and envelopment, it's just a very terrible disaster. So no, let's see how this go. The rest of the Pokrovsk front are not very important. I think nothing particularly. Yeah, this part, the northern flank is interesting. This is one of these interesting thing that I've noted while I was mapping. So just to know, this is the latest mapping, including the frontline changes as per the recording. This is the latest information. The Russians now have made some major progress around Baranivka. And interestingly, they did not take Baranivka, but they actually hit northwest of Baranivka. They hit this way and potentially have captured the potential, alleged entrenchment around there. And I have some theory on why is happening around here. So previously, I did mention, if you have followed me, that the Russians are going for this highway exchange. And I did mention that the Russians is not going to be able to hold a position without the control of Vodyane Druhi. And I believe that the Russians will be attacking Vodyane Druhi in an attempt to create a forward position to allow them to capture this highway exchange. But I believe the Ukrainian forces is defending too well around here, especially with the reinforcement coming down the highway. The Russians are struggling very hard. So they are now operating on a flanking operation. They are doing this major flanking operation coming from another direction so that they can pincer Vodyane Druhi. And I believe this might be working. I think it's working out. And the Ukrainians are now under pressure. If the Russians continue on, I believe they can actually penetrate into Vodyane Druhi from the southeast, and bypass the major Ukrainian entrenchment positions around here through the weak spot and attack the Ukrainian forces from the rear. And this will allow the Russians to capture Vodyane Druhi, secure the forest around here as well as Berezivka, and this will allow the Russians to have a very powerful forward position and have a total control over the highway. And yeah, so I believe this is what is currently progressing with the Russians doing this flanking operation over from Baranivka direction. So this is a major development, technically speaking. So and what else? So the Bakhmut front, Bakhmut front there's another thing also happening. The Russians are continuing to push towards the northern part of Stupovsky in the south of Chasivia. This is still ongoing. The Russians are not slowing down, and it's starting to look quite obscene now. Like it looks really obscene. Like how can the Ukrainians allow the Russians to continue to penetrate through? This is what I mean by obscene. Like yeah. So that is what it is. So and there's two of them here. So yeah, very bad situation. Sivers, in terms of Liman front or Crimea front, Liman front, there's still fighting being reported at Zelena Dolena, but there's no fighting being reported at Kolezyazi. So that's a bit weird. So I don't think the Russians can just attack like this. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. They probably should heading south unless they have already taken these two towns, which is a possibility. So let's watch. There's not enough intel for this area. Borova front, nothing really much to talk about per se. We move to the Kupians, nothing much. Over at the Dvorichna, the Dvorichna is very, very peculiar right now. We have the Russian Defense Ministry announce the capture of Dvorichna. We have them also announce the capture of Zapadne. Also the announcement of capture of Kalinove. The front line might actually look this big. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry only mentioned the fighting at Kinderashivka, which is exactly semi-corroborating that the fact that the Russians are at Kalinove and they are attacking towards Kinderashivka. And also the other one is at Kharkiv. Also by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, also quietly kind of acknowledged that the Russians have progressed from Dvorichna and moving towards Kharkiv. So so these two fronts are too far away for me to zoom in like this. So hope you understand. So Kharkiv. So if the Russians have this, yeah, this makes sense. The fact that the Ukrainians did not talk about Kalinove, but they talk about Kharkiv, maybe quietly suggesting that they have lost Kalinove. The same situation is at Dvorichna. The Russian Defense Ministry announced a capture on the 27th, and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry straight to from 26 to 28 was talking about Kharkiv. They did not talk about Dvorichna. The last report of enemy fighting being reported at Dvorichna was on the 25th, which means that the Russians may also confirm to have captured Dvorichna and heading towards Kharkiv. So this is getting terrible for the Ukrainians because the Russians are really having a strong foothold and they are literally pushing out from two different directions. So, and on top of this, the Russians are also doing a diversionary attack coming from across the border in the north. And they have seemingly started something new over at Krasny Pershe. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they are attacking Ukrainian forces that is around here. We are not sure what kind of attack is this. Is it amphibious or is this just some shelling report? It's unclear. But Topoli is being attacked. So if you zoom out, you're going to see that the Russians are heading to Skokivka, Kontrashivka, and they may be attacking this Krasny Pershe and Topoli. So this is the current situation in the Dvorichna front. It's getting very, very, very hot. In fact, this is already considered quite hot. It's hotter than Kupiansk. So hotter than Kupiansk front, whatever this is, a scam of a front, always scamming people. So I think this is the next front line to watch because this front line have potential of breaking out. Like I suspect that the amount of entrenchment around here might be insufficient and the Russians may have a major breakout from this region here if the Ukrainians are not careful. And then we're going to see some very complicated change of front line. But tentatively, not yet, but potentially could happen. And over at the Kursk front, the Russians are still continuing the same thing. The lot of fighting, but no, the front line is very unclear. But nothing much to talk about. The Russians are being split into two halves, the southern half and the northwestern half. So the Russians are attacking across all these areas here, from Sverdiklovo all the way to Novaya Sorokina. They're also pushing at Cherkasskoye-Porosnoye. So this is basically the northern western flank. In the southern and central flank, the Russians are pushing for Guevo, Krylovka as usual, and Magnovka as well as this major flanking operation and a potential pincer operation because of the fighting being reported over at Pervy-Kinazi, or that could also be a shelling, we're not sure. Suja is also being mentioned, Kojarovka is also being mentioned, so very unclear because there's no one wanting to talk about Kursk. So anyway, let's wait and see. So anyway, this is the summary, not summary, this is the conclusions for the past 2 days of a situation from the Chinese New Year Eve to Chinese New Year, and for the 28th, 29th of Jan, and 29th of Jan is still ongoing. It's still happening right now, although it's already over for me because it's 3 a.m. In Singapore for me. So anyway, yeah, that's it. So I try not to miss, despite it's a Chinese New Year, it's a holiday. It's a very important family event, but I feel like after the day has ended, everybody went to sleep. I feel like I still need to update you guys and do the mapping so that I do not fall behind by too much. If not, it's gonna get very confusing for me later, and very hard for you to understand what I'm trying to say, as well as difficult to map. And also I might be missing very important events like some of these new situation that is developing over in Ukraine. So anyway, so that's it. So press the like button, subscribe. I wish you what or far. I wish you earn a lot of big money, prosperity, and of course, more importantly, good health, safe, and that's it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next update.